In this quirky and fascinating anime, we kick things off with Kaiba, waking up to a fuzzy picture of a girl in his locket and a gaping hole in his chest. Some weird creatures are out there snatching memories from people when a character named Popo bursts onto the scene, shooting at a ship behind Kaiba. Out of nowhere, Kaiba gets scooped up by this ostrich-like bird, and chaos ensues as he gets chased by those memory-stealing beings. With Popo's help, he manages to escape and ends up in a shelter where he meets a group trying to rescue people captured by a robot. In this world, memories can be totally separated from bodies. One character is on a mission to find a memory chip that belongs to his brother so he can return it to the right body, but he ends up connecting it to the wrong person. They sort things out in the end, but decide not to put him back in his body, thinking it's better to keep one less mouth to feed. A family gets into a loud argument after the dad sells all their bodies to save some cash, which leaves them trapped and without much freedom. An old guy tries to tell a wild story about a princess, but a woman cuts him off. Meanwhile, two folks are bummed about their totally full memory house but can't delete old memory chips to make room. A couple has a spat over how the girl has changed since getting a new body, and a kid messes around with the protagonist and a toy bird. Popo lets Kaiba know that he's lost his memories and takes him on a tour of this split-up world, where the rich folks hang out above the clouds and the poor are stuck below. They see people trying to rise up but getting blocked by clouds that wipe memories. Popo explains that the rich buy bodies, while others use memories for their own gain. Their trip gets interrupted by a guy trying to snag Kaiba's memories. Popo quickly whisks him up an elevator to dodge the danger, and they meet a woman at a bar who says she'll help them reach a ship after giving him a once-over. A body collector spots a mark on the boy and starts chasing them. Popo and the woman stir up some distractions, letting them hop on the ship, where Kaiba's told he'll be shipped as luggage under the name Warp. As the ship takes off, the collector sees him and rushes to get on board. He runs into the sheriff, Vanilla, begging for access. There's also an ostrich trying to get on but gets stopped by Vanilla. They all watch as the ship sails away. If you're just as confused and fascinated as I am after episode 1, stick around. Things only get weirder, deeper, and a lot more emotional from here. In a world where memories can be bought, sold, or stolen, nothing is ever as it seems. Tap that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. And let's dive deeper into Kaiba's strange universe together. We kick off with this ship called Neuron, cruising its way to Tahaisa. Kaiba is in this small, blob-like body named Warp, and he's got his buddy Hyo-Hyo tagging along. Not long after, they bump into Kochu, a stowaway sneaking around with her boyfriend because they couldn't afford tickets, so they hid in some baggage to save cash. While hanging out, Kaiba accidentally steps on a hidden button, and they get zapped into Parm's closet. There, they catch Parm in the middle of swapping her memories into Kaiba's body and doing some pretty wild stuff. But before things get too weird, Hyo-Hyo hits the button again, and they all get transported back. Kochu and her boyfriend share some food with Kaiba and Hyo-Hyo, discussing their small dreams and what it's like living the stowaway life. While they're peeking out of the ship, they see this river of roe, which is just memory eggs spilled from dead bodies. While Kochu rummages through her stuff for clothes, a ton of memory chips explode everywhere. Out of nowhere, they get news that a memory tank blew up on planet Lala, sending the memories of around 200,000 people floating into space. The suspect closely matches the blurry image in Kaiba's locket. Kochu finds some hidden memory chips in her and Butter's stuff and confronts Butter, which leads to a big mess with memory chips and underwear flying everywhere. They run into Vanilla, who demands tickets or else they're done for. Butter shows his ticket, but Vanilla still wants a confession. Under pressure, Butter confesses, but Vanilla doesn't hold back and shoots him. Then he brutally shoots Kochu too, and their memories scatter off as glowing eggs into space. Then Vanilla kicks off a raid on the ship. Kaiba and Hyo-Hyo dash through the halls and hide in Parm's room, where her body starts expanding until it bursts. Vanilla shows up to check it out, and it turns out Kaiba has a copy of the woman's memories in his body. Vanilla starts to destroy her memory chip but then freezes Kaiba. Just then, Vanilla's boss arrives and stops him from finishing off the clone, ordering him to check out what's inside the new body. Vanilla reluctantly agrees. The captain dives into the clone's memories, which are filled with the woman in some pretty compromising situations, But Hyo-Hyo steps in and shuts off the machine, trapping the captain. Kaiba and Hyo-Hyo make a run for it as Vanilla shoots at them, and Kaiba takes a hit. They finally manage to escape in a pod. Kaiba lands on a new planet and ends up hiding out in a city with Hyo-Hyo. They manage to dodge a police officer, thanks to a girl named Chroniko who shares her story with them. She's selling her body to some rich guy to support her family, hoping to have her memories transferred to a new body so she can be with them again. Her boots, a gift from her mom, mean the world to her, and she feels like she won't really die even though she's lost her body. The next day, Chroniko goes through a procedure to get her memories extracted. The doctor tells her that he'll make sure she doesn't have second thoughts and that he won't be saving her memories. He just gets rid of them into the air. Later, her body is dumped in a pile by some delivery men, where Kaiba finds it, but all her memories are gone. Quickly, Hyo-Hyo transfers Kaiba's memories into Chroniko's body. Vanilla shows up and is instantly smitten with Kaiba, chasing after him. Meanwhile, the delivery guys come back only to discover that Chroniko's body has disappeared. The scene shifts to Chroniko's old home, where her aunt is grateful for a shot at a normal life. While her ungrateful kids are feasting at the table, she thinks about the hard times since her husband passed away and copes by injecting herself with happy memories. Kaiba watches from a window, feeling a bit down, and decides to dig deeper. He jumps into the aunt's memories, which look like a cozy little library. He flips open a book and sees Chroniko's mom on her deathbed, then the aunt pushing something around while Chroniko pretends to play piano on it. Next, the aunt remembers a young girl splashing through puddles with her mom in shiny new boots. Then, there's a memory of her causing an accident that costs her arms, followed by the joy when Chroniko gets her boots and the struggles that come after her husband's death. Kaiba leaves the house but gets chased by delivery guys and a rich client wanting to reclaim a body. The chase wraps up when Vanilla takes out their vehicle with one shot. He warns Kaiba about the dangers on the planet, and Kaiba, in his only line, asks to hop on the ship leaving. Vanilla is pumped that Kaiba will travel with him. Back at the aunt's house, she plays piano, reminiscing about the good times with Chroniko and her sister. Overwhelmed with sorrow, she cries for their loss, and Kaiba, watching from the ship, feels tears in his eyes too. Kaiba, still in Chroniko's body, is being followed by Vanilla. To throw him off, Kaiba switches bodies and runs into an old lady who takes him to her lighthouse on a small planet. When she notices a hole in Kaiba's body, she has her grandson help her bake a purple substance to fill it up. The grandson, a bit suspicious of Kaiba, accuses him of trying to snag their family treasure. Vanilla bursts into the lighthouse searching for Chroniko, knocks the grandson out, and ultimately freezes Kaiba in place with his memory reader. He dives into Kaiba's memory bubble, which looks like a green maze filled with locked vaults. In his original body, Kaiba is hiding among some books, prompting Vanilla to chase after him. Hyo-Hyo steps in and knocks the memory reader out of Vanilla's hands. The first grandson wakes up, grabs the gun from Vanilla, thinking Kaiba is after their family treasure. In a panic, both grandsons threaten Kaiba with their weapons, forcing him into their grandma's memory bubble. Inside the bubble, it's small and white, full of blank black volumes. While searching around, Kaiba spots a soft red brick at the top of the room, which leads him to a huge library with a food-laden table and Grandma sitting at one end, with 3 pink doors behind her. Kaiba walks up to her. At the table, there's a broken blue door, an unfinished ship model, and some tea and snacks. Grandma asks Kaiba what's up, and surprisingly, he speaks through Warp's body and brings up the family treasure. She insists it doesn't exist and claims her husband isn't dead, he's probably at the lighthouse. Kaiba mentions how the model looks like one in her room, and she praises Grandpa's carpentry skills. As the memory starts to warp, Kaiba hears Grandpa asking Grandma if she's sure she's okay, to which she agrees. Kaiba makes a quick getaway just as Bori and Kira arrive to announce Grandma's death, lamenting that they'll never learn about Grandpa's treasure. Kaiba urges them to head over to the lighthouse. Back in Chroniko's body, Kaiba asks for a grave for Grandma, and Vanilla agrees. 2 graves pop up on a cliff decorated with blooming flowers below. Neuron leaves the planet, and Kaiba stares at the girl in his locket until Vanilla brings him some strange food. A blurry memory flashes of Nero and Kaiba kissing, with a girl's voice saying, "It'll pop soon." Vanilla, Kaiba, who's in Chronoco's body, and Hayohyo stroll through a lively city buzzing with neon lights and cheering crowds. Vanilla gets super excited and dashes off to grab some ice cream, but suddenly stops when he spots Kaiba zooming towards a girl who kinda looks like Nero. On a closer look, it's not her, and Kaiba notices a bunch of Nero lookalikes being sold around. After losing Hyo in the mix, Kaiba chases after Warp, who's being dragged off by a machine. A baby in a ride offers to take him to the factory where they churn out artificial bodies. As they near the place, the baby introduces Kaiba to a quirky cat designer who's behind the new body styles, warning him to keep an open mind. At the factory, Patch and Quilt are running the assembly line of neon bodies. When Kaiba confronts them, Patch insists he has to stay, explaining his work on biocopy tech that was born out of necessity. Things start to spiral, but Quilt steps up and manages to operate the machine just in time before Patch's alarm goes off. After they make their escape, they run into that baby again, who talks about their next stop, the body collection facility, which also happens to be a food factory where they turn bodies into food for cash. Kaiba spots his own body and shouts, "There's my body!" But it's too late. A conveyor belt reveals familiar faces, including a mom with her kid and a girl holding a flower. Totally grossed out, Kaiba receives a pink business card from the baby, who offers some help. Back at a rainy marketplace, Kaiba finds Vanilla waiting for him with ice cream. He notices Vanilla has a fever, so he takes care of him before heading back to the factory. When he goes up to Patch, he learns he can't just leave. He's got to stay with them. They take an escalator down, and Kaiba asks Quilt about a backup battery. In a storage room filled with body parts, he tries to tap into Patch's memories but can't get it to work. He looks at some old photos and footage of a girl hanging out with Patch. Out of nowhere, thieves attack Quilt. Kaiba rushes to help, but Quilt gets hurt. He pulls out the baby's business card while Quilt lies there motionless. The baby tells Kaiba they can't use Quilt's body anymore, but can save her memories. Kaiba begs for help, but the baby turns down the gold offer, saying they'll fix Quilt instead. But Kaiba decides he's going to rebuild Quilt and Patch's lab since he's a fan of Patch. In a park with a reddish sky, Kaiba finds Vanilla, who's looking lost and not feeling well. They watch kids playing near a statue that looks like Kaiba's original body. "Who's that?" Kaiba asks. The baby replies, "That's Warp, the prince running this universe, controlling memories. He's over in the palace on Lala, dealing with terrorists." Kaiba, using Chronoco's body, is cruising down the Ro River with Vanilla. Their next stop is Lolo, which has the biggest memory tank around. Vanilla tries to chat with Kaiba and asks about his feelings, but he just brushes him off and walks away. While they're on the ship, Kaiba starts to hear voices talking about what it's like to be bodiless. After they bump into another ship, Kaiba meets a tough-looking cyborg named Gel, who's busy fixing the damage. Kaiba lends a hand, but he's distracted by a couple talking about the planet, which used to be a graveyard of memories. They check out the memory tower, but Kaiba can't find anything about Warp. When he runs into Gel again, they both realize they're in bodies that don't match their true genders. Gel admits she didn't want to switch bodies, and after thinking it over, Kaiba decides to go by Warp from now on. Later, they meet an old couple who sing to them. Gel tells Kaiba that Warp is their enemy, the one who locks souls away in memory tanks, and warns him to steer clear of them at night. Things take a weird turn when a strange plant shows up and starts sucking memories from the wife, but Gel jumps in to help. The husband recognizes that the memory is real, which puts a strain on their relationship. That night, Gel hesitates to kiss Kaiba, unsure if her feelings are authentic. The next morning, Gel collapses and Vanilla rushes off to find Kaiba. The police start questioning Gel's innocence, revealing that she was stolen from Abipa. Even under pressure, Kaiba secretly copies Gel's memories. Despite everything, they decide to stick together on their journey. As they part ways, Kaiba can't help but think Gel looks a lot like a girl in a locket he has, while a larger memory-eating plant is starting to grow from the wreckage of the explosion. Meanwhile, Nero talks about destroying the memory tanks, just as Popo ordered. Now we're diving into a rare cold open from Kaiba's point of view, as he's taken across a bizarre ocean planet by a cheerful Vanilla. Vanilla zooms Kaiba as Chronoco to the moon of Libra, a haunting city filled with copies of its former residents, their spirits hanging around in the empty streets. When Vanilla asks Chronico about his feelings, Kaiba gets overwhelmed and runs off. Feeling hurt, Vanilla distracts himself with the news and learns that Kaiba is now a wanted man with his police license revoked. With a sad look, he pulls out a memory chip and says, "Sorry, Mom." Meanwhile, Kaiba, tapping into Gel's memories, finds out that Gel is actually Nero in a different form, sent to take down the Soul Factory. A technician mentions Nero's new hands, which are now bombs, highlighting her struggle against a society that messed with her identity. As Kaiba digs deeper, he realizes he was part of Nero's rebellion and might actually be Popo himself. This whole journey, he thinks, seems more about dodging his real past than going after love. Just when he starts to figure things out, the city suddenly comes alive. Vanilla bounces around a huge music hall, surrounded by projections of smiling faces, pushing his earlier sadness aside. Unable to face the reality of his downfall, he retreats to what feels comfortable and familiar, clinging to the fantasy that this whole world exists to support him. It was until not long ago, but that's changed, and dealing with that is tough for him. Instead of hiding in the shadows, he prefers to stay wrapped up in comfort, security, and blissful ignorance. Unfortunately, even that cozy oblivion gets interrupted when the police crash the party, leading to a desperate chase. With heavily armed ships on their tail, Vanilla realizes that only a mind transfer can save them. In a brave final move, he sacrifices himself so Kaiba can escape. He reassures Kaiba by saying this is just his preferred body type, and that he'll be back. In his last moments, he comes to terms with the fact that Chronico never really loved him but still decides to save Kaiba, because his feelings were real. As they embrace, he finds happiness one last time while apologizing to his mom. As their bodies break apart, their spirits come together. This episode dives into the complexities of Isudan, the One Mind Society, shedding light on Popo's backstory and the surprising truth about the throne-bound warp. It kicks off with a childhood flashback of young Popo, Nero, and Cheki, sharing simple meals and dreaming about a better future. Popo announces that he wants to be king, and the girls promise to back him up, laying the groundwork for Isudan. In the present, King Warp is seen in a robotic shower, dealing with a voice assistant that's getting on his nerves. There's a report that Tank East 204 has been taken out by Nero, who's been inhabiting Gel's body. As Isudan gears up to rebel, an elder in a hood gives Nero props for her bombing. Meanwhile, Popo goes after Takehiko, who secretly switched bodies to save his sister, breaking Isudan's strict rules. Even though Takehiko begs for mercy, Popo decides to execute him right then and erases his memories. Later, Popo and Nero share a quiet bath, where Popo gives Nero a locket with a childhood photo, marking her role in the destruction of East 204. Nero drifts into a memory of fun times with Kaiba, but just as she's reminiscing, Popo's silhouette hides his face. Their moment is interrupted by Cheki, who delivers shocking news. Popo's mom is supposedly nearby in robot form. Outside, Popo confronts a damaged robot claiming to be his mom, flat out rejecting her and angrily telling Sate to knock off the joke. However, he later feels guilty, realizing his emotional struggle and feelings of betrayal. Sate then reveals that the King Warp on the throne is a fake, with one real warp and a bunch of imposters. She also spills that Jack Chu took Kaiba's original warp body. When Jack Chu faces the fake king with a statue matching Warp's tattoo, the king seems thrown off. Popo meets with Dada Dai, or Dada, the rebel leader, and uncovers some ancient machinery while getting ready to deal with the memory-eating Kaiba plant. They find out many copies of Warp exist, but only a few can handle his actual power. Meanwhile, Kichi steps in during the transport of the real Warp body, shoots the Collector, and makes off with the body, riding off with an ostrich-like creature. The Collector doesn't make it out alive. By the end, Hyo-Hyo is revealed to be a memory backup of Nero, set to help restore her identity and hinting at even bigger conspiracies about memory, bodies, and loyalty. Things really heat up when Popo realizes that the warp ruling the skies is a fake. This revelation pushes him to start a rebellion with the One Mind Society, Isudan, and he tries to convince Nero to take out the false king. With the knowledge that there's only one real warp body and that a bunch of imposters are tricking everyone, Popo and Nero break into the facility where the clones are kept, believing the real Warp Kaiba is hiding out somewhere close. Nero, whose memories have been messed with to make her hate Warp, kicks off the attack. But as she fights, she starts having flashbacks of genuine feelings, like love for Kaiba, while her original memories come flooding back. Even though Popo is pushing her to stay loyal to their mission, Nero starts to hesitate, caught up in her own emotional turmoil. At the same time, Popo's extreme dedication starts to show. He harshly orders the destruction of Warp clone memory chips and shuts down anyone who dares to question him or his beliefs. Eventually, Nero faces off against the real Warp body in a dramatic showdown, and they both end up falling into a deep chasm. This moment shatters their sense of identity and loyalty. Nero is left crying over the unconscious Kaiba, while Popo tightens his grip on Isudan's radical agenda. By the end of the episode, Popo's uprising is fully underway. Nero is on the verge of rediscovering her true self, and the mystery of the real Warp body is still up in the air, but close enough to be resolved in the final arcs. This part dives into the emotional side of Kaiba's character as Nero finally gets back all her memories of their past together. It starts with Warp Kaiba crashing down from the sky, and Nero, seeing this, rushes to help him and brings him to her home without knowing who he really is. As he wakes up quietly, she takes care of him, and slowly, they start to bond. Kaiba sketches his memories on her walls and explores the community, all shown through flashbacks. Eventually, Popo shows up and begins training Nero for their revolutionary cause, introducing the system at Isudan. Kaiba quietly watches and learns about the power structure they're aiming to overthrow. While they eat and share stories, Nero opens up about her parents dying from illness and explains their mission, creating a world without social classes filled with hope for the future. Their relationship deepens during these intimate moments. Things take a tragic turn when Popo reveals that Kaiba is the legendary king of memories, and Nero might have to kill him if it comes down to it. She goes into Kaiba's palace with poison or a weapon, ready for whatever it takes. But when she gets there, Kaiba senses her and helps her inside. The plan starts to fall apart, and a palace security robot ends up shooting Nero instead. Kaiba collects her remains in Memory Row, using his powers to grow Nero back in a cloning pod, bringing her back with all her memories. When she wakes up, they share a heartfelt moment amidst the chaos. Kaiba opens up about his past, how he survived an assassination attempt from his own family, inherited the throne, and became nearly invincible, able to heal from internal injuries but not external ones. Their moment of safety doesn't last long, though. Just when Nero is about to show Kaiba something important, betrayal hits in the palace. The ceiling collapses, dragging them into darkness. As Nero puts a locket around his neck and calls him her Kaiba, she whispers that he'll never forget her. The episode wraps up by flashing forward to present-day Nero, who realizes she might have played a role in Kaiba's death due to Popo's manipulation, and that a lot of their shared history was twisted by lies. With the false Warp finally taken down, Popo is on a high, standing on top of the palace and thinking he's won. The annoying electrolytic clouds and skonks are gone for good, or so he believes. But that victory doesn't feel great. His closest friends are either missing or messed up. The joy quickly fades as he realizes there's no one left to celebrate with. His mom, Cheki, and Nero are all lost in the chaos. While exploring the city, Popo finds Cheki, but she's in a zombie-like state, completely empty and without a clue about who she is. Heartbroken, he rushes back to the palace with her, haunted by memories and all the sacrifices he's made. In a moment of sheer panic, he accidentally drops his mom's memory chip and destroys it, wiping out her existence and cutting him off from his past. Inside the palace, Popo goes on a rampage, smashing the remaining memory tanks, hell-bent on erasing the old system at any cost. His actions feel victorious, but there's this creeping realization that absolute power comes with a heavy price and a lot of regret. Meanwhile, Kaiba has managed to wake up after the battle and regain his memories. He quietly leaves the palace grounds. Nero, who risked everything for him, spots him slipping away. Their reunion is tense and emotional. Kaiba's got a new focus and seems ready to dive back into the heart of the system. Nero is right behind him, torn between love and uncertainty about what's coming next. As the iconic fan's Naihi keeps spinning above the city, showing that life goes on even in chaos. The episode wraps up on a pretty somber note. Popo stands there, celebrating his win but feeling completely alone at the top, while Kaiba and Nero head back to the palace, gearing up for the final showdown. In the climax, the memory-eating Kaiba plant gets close to the planet, ready to wipe out all consciousness. While Warp Kaiba and the fake Warp go at it in a wild battle, Popo's childhood buddy Kichi shows up with Nero and Hyo-Hyo. Popo tells them to open Kaiba's mind, while he stays back to hold off the security robots. Inside the palace, Kaiba takes hits from Warp but fights back, warning that if Warp releases his stored memories, it'll be the end of the planet. As Kaiba pushes back, people who died earlier start to come back to life. At the same time, Kichi battles robots to protect the control for the mist. His body gets wrecked, leaving just his head before he dies in front of Hyo-Hyo. Nero finally catches up with Kaiba in the middle of the fight and starts releasing happy memory eggs, especially ones about his mom, to fight against Kaiba's inner darkness. Kaiba splits into two, a dark version that shows his pain and a childlike version. Nero holds on to him with love and helps him remember who he really is. Together with Hyo-Hyo, she gets the last memory row into Kaiba, letting him take control again. As the plant starts consuming everything, Kaiba chooses to release all human memories, including his own and Warp's, into the Kaiba plant to stop it. The plant explodes from the overload. After that, the sky clears up and the world feels peaceful. Nero kneels beside a hurt Kaiba, who opens his eyes and smiles at her, finally at peace and surrounded by memories of love. The last scene shows a quiet memory terminal where Hyo-Hyo and Kichi in his restored form are hanging out together, suggesting some memories stick around. Humanity is free, memory wiped clean, but love still remains. Somewhere out there, Kaiba's body is flying through space. Meanwhile, your subscribe button is just sitting there, cold, empty, and waiting for purpose. Don't let it suffer like a discarded memory chip. Hit subscribe before someone else uploads your attention span into a discount brain.